What's happening, everybody? Welcome back. Blood Splatter Chatter here, doing some bonus blood, continuing our revisit of the 2005 through 2006 Showtime show, Masters of Horror, doing 2 episodes at a time. Every 6 weeks or so, we're now on episodes 5 and 6. 5 is Chocolate, directed by show creator Mick Garris, and 6, Homecoming, directed by the actual Master of Horror that we'll be talking about on this episode, Joe Dante. So I got the regular crew with me doing all these episodes with me. Mr. Rock and Robbie, my brother, what's happening?
Yo, man, I'm super happy to be here, man. I had a long night last night. I went camping. It was
You
so
sound like
cold.
it.
Barely didn't get any sleep. I just woke up from a long extended nap. I wouldn't miss this for the world. Masters of Horror. Any excuse to dive back into this series, regardless of the quality of the episodes. It's always fun, and I cannot wait to talk about these two.
Full disclosure, I feel like shit as well, but I'm not nearly as cool. I had one Captain and Coke and one Modelo, and I woke up feeling like it was like a night in my 20s that I went out hardcore as fuck. I can't believe how bad I feel off of 2 drinks. But my man who looks like he feels great, my brother from another, Fable, what's happening?
Station, guys, what's going on? Yep, happy to be here with you guys. Happy to continue this foray into the Masters of Horror, and get your insights on these 2 episodes because, especially Homecoming, I definitely want to know what you guys think. But...
Oh, I'm dying to talk about. But I think there's a lot to say for both these episodes. I think, regardless of what everyone thinks, there's a lot to say on them. But my man who always has a lot to say from 9-Panel Grid, Eric, what's happening? Thanks for being here.
Dude, Sunday afternoon horror, like I could not think of a better place to be. Similar to you guys, I was up late, not because of camping, not because of drinking. It was because I was like, oh crap, I gotta watch Masters of Horror. So I was up till like 1 o'clock, like pounding through these episodes. So
woke up feeling equally as rough. Just like, torturous night. Okay, well let's start there. I feel like, and I don't know, now from what you've said already, Robbie, I feel like I was remembering what you said correctly. As I'm watching Chocolate, I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure Robbie said he didn't like this one. I think he said negative things about it. And in the back of my mind, I was like, I like that one. I'm pretty sure I enjoyed it the first time. It has Henry Thomas in it, who he's Elliot from E.T. He also does a bunch of the Flanagan stuff. He was in Haunting a Hill House and Midnight Mass, probably others, but those are the 2 that I've seen. And it has Matt Frewer, whose name I'm only learning right now as I look at it, who's in a bunch of stuff. I've always liked him. He stands out to me the most. Well, first of all, he's Max Headroom, so he's that. But he's also the neighbor in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, among many other things. But I've always liked him, and he's always he sticks out to me in this. I enjoy him. I like this episode. I don't know if I like the ending. We'll get to that. But there's something about this one. Basically, the plot is this guy, he starts seeing through another person's point of view, this woman. It goes by the senses. First, he just hears what she hears. Then he sees what she sees. Then he feels what she feels, and so on until he's like in her body at one point. And then he meets her. But it's not a horror show very much at all. There's very, very little horror, if any, in this episode, really. But I don't know. I like the performances. I like the acting and the characters. But I don't know. What do you think, Robbie, of this one? First of all, we should start with Mick Garris. I'm sorry. It is where I want to start, man. I apologize so much. Mick Garris, who is he's the creator of the show, and he's kind of like one of the spokespersons of the horror genre. You see him in a lot of documentaries. He's made a few different documentaries. He's directed a fair amount of the worst Stephen King adaptations outside of Fable's favorite, Sleepwalkers, which he did. He did the Stand TV show, which I love. He did the Shining TV show, which I've never seen. And then he did some stinkers. He did Desperation. He did Riding the Bullet. He wrote Hocus Pocus, though. And he came up with the story for Batteries Not Included, which Steven Spielberg presented in the 80s, which I didn't know until looking into this. But he's a guy, like I said, you see him in documentaries. I've always liked him, but not a master of horror, I would say, at all. But, Robbie, you have any opinions on him, or you just want to dive into what you thought of Chocolate?
Yeah, well, with Mick Garris, Mick Garris is, I love what you said, like he's kind of like a spokesperson for horror, right? His career kind of started, like he was a musician, and then he started studying film, and he did this like show where he would do interviews with like fantasy and horror directors. And that's where he met Steven Spielberg and Joe Dante and John Landis and Roger Corman. And then that kind of started the the relationship with those people, right? Steven Spielberg called him up one day and got him to write an episode of Amazing Stories. He eventually became story editor of that and directed an episode. And he was kind of like the linchpin of all of this, right? And so these dudes used to meet up every so often, have dinner together and bullshit around, and they jokingly would call themselves the Masters of Horror, here to have barbecue or something like that, right? And out of those meetings, that's where this idea came from, is doing an anthology show, letting these horror directors kind of stretch their wings, spread their wings, and stretch their skills and do things like that. Right now, I would say that he does belong up there as a master of horror, but he is more of like a linchpin. He's like kind of like what brings this all together. And I think that this was one of the best things he's ever done, is the Masters of Horror show and bring this together. And it's a rather ambitious plan if you think about it, right? We're going to take these big time horror movie directors and give them like an hour to tell like a horror story with like very little editing, right? Like there wasn't too many people from Showtime or whatever getting in the way until you get to the Mieke one, right? But as far as his work goes, I do think that he isn't one of the greatest horror directors out there, but didn't he do like Critters 2?
Yes, he did do Critters 2 as well, yeah.
He did Critters 2, and that's fun. I'm not the biggest Sleepwalkers fan, but that started his working relationship and then a friendship with Stephen King. They've worked together a lot. So I wouldn't say that he's like my favorite director out of this batch, but I love the idea of bringing these people together. And I love that spokesperson for horror. He really is. He's on all the documentaries.
Right.
He's very intelligent, the way he talks about horror. As far as this episode goes, Chocolate, I love Chocolate. I think Chocolate is amazing.
Oh, my bad. Right? Okay, I misremembered that. My bad, brother.
Oh, yeah. It's one of my favorite.
I remember it too, Vern.
I think that Chocolate's one of my favorite things he's ever done.
Okay.
Right? I remember watching this for the first time, and we were all just so wigged out at when dude is basically getting fucked, right? Yes. And his response to that, and then that crazy situation where he's just met this woman at the grocery store. He's basically had like a bachelor's wet dream, you know, where he's like just meets this cute chick at the grocery store. She goes home with him. Then all of a sudden he's in this other woman's head getting fucked. And then his ex-wife and kid come in.
Yeah.
What a crazy scene. I like it. I think that this is a story, and it's based on a short story that Mick Garris had been trying to get made for a while. I think about almost 20 years by the time he made this, right? And it was initially going to be a feature film. And he says on the documentary on the special features that he was afraid that cutting it down to an hour, he would like lose stuff, right? Because so much would have to come out of the story. And he said that Dario Argento goes, yes, but maybe that would be better, right?
He would say that. Of course, you don't need all the characters. Who cares?
Yeah, who cares? Just get to the raw thing. But I think the movie is really interesting exploration on the senses. I think that it does a really great job of making it like a tactile experience and bringing us into him. And I love the setup of it, where it starts with the end of the story.
Yeah.
And then Jamie is like telling the story of what happened.
He's being interrogated. He's covered with blood. He's killed somebody.
Yeah. And you got to piece it all together. And I think it's incredibly well performed. I think it's really nice, tight structure. And on the rewatch, I enjoyed it just as much. Like,
oh, yeah.
It's a crazy cool idea. I think it's executed very well. The performances are great. And yeah, maybe not one of the most horrific thing. And these are probably two of the most non-horror episodes in season 1.
Sure.
But I think Chocolate stands out. And I do think that it's one of Mick Garris's best works that he's ever done. I like The Stand. I've never actually, have I seen The Shining? I think I have. And I didn't really like that one, but it's hard to pull my head off of Kubrick's version of the story. But I do think Mick Garris is a master of horror, because he's the one that kind of brought this all together. And he's like Reggie Jackson, right? He's the straw that stirs the drink. You know what I'm saying? So I really like Chocolate, and I think it holds up significantly.
Hell yeah. Fable, now am I remembering this correctly? Is Sleepwalkers, because you've brought it up a handful of times. You always press it by saying, I haven't seen it in fucking 30 years. Is that the one with the cat people?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Sleepwalkers is underrated, but not necessarily overrated either. Like if you hate it, I can't argue with you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. But like a bit of a guilty pleasure. I don't remember it. I do not remember it. I feel like I've seen most
Well,
of
it has
the
that great scene in
Stephen
the
King's
beginning
90s.
with the chick and she's mopping the movie theater and she starts dancing with the mop and shit. And I don't know. I saw that in the movies. I loved it.
Right.
But I was a kid too, so.
What did you think of this? You hadn't seen it. Well, actually, you probably this is your second watch for this because you went through the whole most of the first season, right? What did you think of it, man?
I don't know. I don't have the love for it that you guys have for it. I think it's kind of just okay. It has good elements to it. It has an interesting premise, right? I think that it does have some great performances in it. And there's stuff that I like, you know, like when he throws the knife at the chick and it goes in her fucking hand. I thought that was freaking awesome.
I love it. It's one of those, it's like the thing where you can tell it's a fake hand. You can tell like she's holding a hand. It's not quite lining up right. That's not her hand or her arm even.
But I don't know, guys. I felt like it was kind of like, what was the point to all of this happening to him, right? Like, I don't think they even got into what triggered this thing, right? It was just like some shit that just happened to him, and we're just going through it with him. So I don't know. I felt like it was kind of like pointless in a lot of ways, even though it does have great performances, like Robbie said. And I didn't necessarily hate it either, but I just thought it was just like, it didn't have enough horrific elements in it for me, right? If I'm watching the masters of horror, like I want to see some shit, right? And Mitch Garris, I'm not 100% familiar with his work, but I don't know. I thought he'd bring it more since this is his show, right? Like,
right. Well, just as I'm looking at his work, there's nothing where I feel like he's like brought it in that sense. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing stands out as like, oh, he had a gnarly movie. I just don't think that's really his flavor. Again, he wrote Hocus Pocus, Batteries Not Included. That's more, I think, his flavor.
Yeah.
But also, before I forget, I agree with you. Like that's why I said I didn't love the ending. I don't think they wrap it up enough to explain why this is happening. I do think he needed that extra 25, 30 minutes to flesh it out.
There's some missed opportunities, I think. I think him working at this chemical factory or whatever it is with the flavors of food, I think that would have been a nice little twist in there that, you know, somehow these chemicals cause him to have this connection to this woman in some way. I think they wasted Max Headroom completely.
Yeah.
He's fantastic, and we lose him halfway through the episode. I think he should have been connected more to what was going on with this dude.
I love his little mohawk, though.
I know, dude.
Yeah, I love. He's great in everything he's in, that dude. So I would have loved to see more of him or more of his. He's supposed to be this guy's best friend, right? So I want him to be more involved in what's going on with this guy.
Well, they kind of make a big deal out of him. Like you expect him to come back and be connected in the overall plot more. I agree. I thought the same thing, dude. 100%.
Yeah. There was one more point I wanted to make about it. Damn, I lost it. But yeah, I thought it was okay. I don't think it's I don't know. I don't think it fits the moniker of this television show. As a short, sure, it's okay, you know, but ultimately I think it falls flat.
I feel that's fair enough, man. For me, it's like the ride took me through, and then the end is where I agree with everything, where it does fall flat. That's where I feel everything that you're saying is like, why isn't the friend more involved? Why isn't there a reason behind this?
Right.
It doesn't wrap up super nicely to me with such a good setup. But my brother, first time watch for you. What'd you think of Chocolate?
I was pleasantly surprised. I was kind of coming into this thinking that this is going to be the low point of the series because, again, I was thinking the same thing that you were thinking, that we've heard negative things about this. I thought that this was the cleanest looking episode, the most well produced. It looks like if they were putting the budget towards any episode, I'm like, oh, this is clearly the budget because it looks legit. Whereas I had criticisms on the other episodes. No, this looked really tight. And I'm glad, Verno, that you brought up the fact that he did The Shining and the Stand miniseries. Because after you said that, in my head, first of all, I have a soft spot for those things. I understand how kind of like lackluster they are nowadays. But I loved those things when they were coming out. And this feels of that same directorial approach, right? He had the same eye, and in some cases, like we were talking about with Max Headroom's dude, the same characters, right? He was the trash can man in the stand. Yeah, so I dug this. I dug it a lot. I feel like it's the first one of these episodes where we got a clean, concise story. And Fable, while I agree with you, I think the parts that didn't make sense or didn't get explanations weren't necessarily the things that needed explanation, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't need to know why he was experiencing these things, because that's not the point. The point was the journey that he went through and some of the horrific things that he had experienced himself. The only other thing I will say on this is, while, again, totally agree, this feels the least horrific of every single episode, the part where the knife sticks through the chest and kind of guts the dude.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the most effective effects that we've seen in the series. We've seen, like, you know, the drill come through the eye and like a bunch of silly, like over the top kind of things that make it fun, but none of them necessarily felt real. Nothing felt like authentic. You'd be like, oh, that's pretty lame. That one actually looked pretty legit, even for today's standards, in my opinion.
I think with the Argento one, when she's eating the cat, that's got its moments of like some fucking gnarly visceral stuff that we see. But you're right. I had kind of actually forgotten about that moment, which in this one, which is fairly horrific. What up, Big Herm? Appreciate you being here. Johnny Recaps, Road Collecting. Appreciate you guys. Big Herm saying nothing more horrific than Paul on ASM. Am I right, Eric? Am I right? Am I right?
Though? Is he right?
I'll do the opposite Captain America. I don't understand that reference. I just don't fucking get it. Like I said, this one, it just carries me through. I'm just like kind of into it. A big part of it is the main actor, whose name I already fucking forgot.
Thomas Henry.
Yeah, I lost it. Anyway, the guy Elliot from ET. He pulls me through it. The performances.
Henry Thomas.
Thank you. Oh, it's funny too. It's got a nice sense of humor to it and all that. So I don't know.
It's funny, right? It's a funny thing. Like, even just the concept, like it is funny when he like is experiencing her orgasm.
That's what I was just thinking. Right? I was looking through my notes and I'm like, oh, I got to get to the female orgasm. Don't we all wish we could experience a female orgasm? What are you ladies freaking out about? You know what I mean? Like, what are you screaming about? Like, yeah, I want to know.
Yeah, it's a
more of a follow-up there.
No, it's a crazy bit. And one thing I do want to say is, and I get what you're saying too, Fable, about, and that's probably some of the stuff that was cut. More of an explanation on how this starts happening, what exactly triggers it. And I love what Eric said too. Like, that's not necessarily the point, right? Like, the point of the story is to kind of see this dude's state of loneliness and despair and sensitivity. And this is one of the things Mick Garris says in his interview, because each one of these sets, each one of these discs has a really good, like, 20-minute documentary about working with this director for this episode. And it goes through his career and how it all ties together, all the themes they typically work with. And Mitch Garris has never been a big fan of just like silly slasher, gory horror movies, right? Like, he always, the way he talks about horror, one would anticipate that his movies would be more cerebral. I don't think they necessarily are, but they're not quite just going for shock value all the time. And I think the best thing outside of this is that very first episode of The Stand, which is perfect. Like, that first episode of that Stand miniseries is great. The Don't Fear the Reaper stuff, the spread of the disease, the introduction of these characters. It's not, I do think that the Stand miniseries from the 90s is really good, but when you rewatch it now, and it was a huge deal back when this thing came out, in like the mid 90s or something, right? And I remember watching it with my family and just being awestruck by it. But that is such a meaty, heavy, epic story to be done in just 4 episodes on a television budget. So I think that first episode, though, is damn brilliant. But
plus, it has the issue, the book does not end well. And that is a big part of the miniseries. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it falls off at the end. That's like one of my favorite books. My second favorite book all time, but besides it. I've read it a shitload, but then by the end, I'm like, God, he just blew it. I think Stephen King blew the ending to that book, as he does many books, and that you feel that.
That's probably why he's had like 4 different endings as each re-release comes out over and over. The extended cut, the director's cut, the writer's cut. You know.
Yeah, I think me saying that it needed something else to tie something together. It has more to do with my taste than how good or bad this is, right? Like something could be good, but if it doesn't click with you, maybe like the next episode, Homecoming, that is so ham-fisted, right? Like you're not on that side of the aisle, then you might be like, what is this garbage? And if you're on that side of the aisle, then you'll be like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So this is like speaks to my taste more than whether it's good or bad, because like just to go through a journey without having a point to it, that's not the kind of thing I'm into. You know what I mean? I like to have a thread that ties itself at the end.
Right.
And I think this is just an experience. And it's like, okay, but what was the point?
Part of it might be the format, because if you think about Jennifer, that was the same thing I said about Jennifer. Although I enjoy it, it's the same thing where at the end it's like, well, where did she come from? And I'm not always the type that's like, well, I need all the backstory, I need everything. But there's sometimes when you feel like you're being a little bit shorter, like, what was up with Jennifer? Why did this happen in Chocolate?
Well, it's kind of like it works with it's kind of, I think, part of the anthology, right? Because Mick Garris says that it's the fact that this dude, his whole purpose in existence is to be sensitive, right? To be sensitive to taste and smell. And to him, it's kind of like that level of sensitivity that he's going through in just his life. And like, you know, he talks about like how he can't eat certain foods or it will mess him up. And he can smell the dude's chili cheese Fritos from across the room. And what does Max Headroom say? He says something like, man, you could be in a stadium and tell who farted or something like that, right? And so it's something like that. And yeah, I love the idea of like the chemicals, like maybe like some stuff he's working with, but the idea that this guy is so lonely and in this desperate situation, and he's already a sensitive dude, and now his emotional state is so sensitive that he's like starts picking up on frequencies maybe of somebody else who's kind of like going through the same type stuff. And that's an interesting theme to explore. But yeah, just like an EC comic, right? Where they have like Johnny Craig's, for instance, say would have 8 pages to like tell us a story with like a punchy bit to it. It feels the same way where you're like, oh man, that could be spaced out and stretched out a little bit more, but we do kind of just get right to the point, right?
I need something to tie Jamie into his experience. If that makes sense. Like this is just happening to him. And does he necessarily deserve this treatment? Does he deserve this power that he, whatever, whether for good or bad, you know, whether he's a good dude, bad dude, doesn't matter. Just why is this happening to Jamie? This guy.
Yeah, what's the connection?
Yeah, well, this is fucked up. So it could end fucked up too. Like it could end the way it ended, like he's getting arrested, whatever. But I need to know why Jamie's going through this. And it doesn't really tell me that.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, let us go around now, rate this bad boy out of 5. And kick it off for us, Robbie. What do you think out of 5 for Chocolate?
Thinking about this, I really like this one. It's not my favorite episode, not even out of the ones that we've covered so far, but it is one that I think is rather strong. And I think it's one of Mick Garris's best pieces he's done. I like that EC comic nature to it. All of these stories, all of these episodes kind of have that, like an episode of Tales from the Crypt or something, right? So I really like this. I think the performances are strong. It delivers on things that I think the Masters of Horror series tries to do, which is be interesting, have a cool, punchy kind of hook into the story, have beautiful women
it does
in it, right?
Squeezes one in or two.
That's probably the hottest women in the whole season, I think.
Because there is Jennifer, but her face, right? But so I'll give this one a very enthusiastic 4 out of 5 is what I'll give it. I really like it. I think it's solid, and it was a treat to go back through it. And my girlfriend was watching it with me, and she had some fun with it too. It was nice. It's just an interesting. It's got that moment, like maybe we're spoiled nowadays, but man, I remember in 2005, me and the homies watching this one, like including Jelani. Jelani's like, "Oh no, man! Oh no, man! I ain't trying to get fucked by this dude, man, and feel it, you know, and shit like that."
That's horror. Like if that's not horrific to a certain segment, which will be me, then yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like as far as like, because this is an anthology, I don't mind having one that isn't like super horrific. You know what I mean? Have one that's more like, I don't know, not sci-fi, but just like whatever the fuck this is. Yeah. I don't mind having a variety.
And I like how they all have different flavors, and the personality of each director does come through. Like you can feel it. Like I can tell that like Incident on and Off Mountain Road, that's the Coscarelli episode. right? Like if you're familiar with his work, you can piece it together. Homecoming. If you didn't know, and it was like one of those quizzes where it's like match the movie with the director, you could be like, oh, Homecoming, that's totally Joe Dante, right? You know, you kind of piece it together. And I think that their personalities and their talent kind of definitely shines through in their episodes.
Hey, all right. So a 4 from Rockin' Robbie. Where do you land on it, Fable?
Yeah, I just remember what I was gonna say that I forgot to say. That the scene, I think, is one of the dumbest scenes I've seen in this whole series. Like the one where he's having a convulsion, like he just slept with the girl and he wakes up. And is that where he's getting fucked in that scene, or was it a different scene?
Well, when he wakes up the next morning, I think that's when she's having the orgasm in the shower. He's basically having a female, right? There's two. There's two of them. Yeah, he's being penetrated in one.
Yeah, that's the one where he's like in the bed with the woman, and this woman, by the way, is just like, "Stop it! Stop!" I'm like, "Call the goddamn cops! What's wrong?"
The dumbest scene. There you go. You just explained it for me.
Quit joking around.
She's like, "Stop doing this! Just stop, Jamie! Just stop!" And then the kid and his ex-wife walk in, and the kid pushes the woman and goes, "Leave my dad alone!" And the wife is like, "Damn it, Jamie!" and walks away. And they're letting this guy fucking die, like, because to the regular world, he looks like he's having a seizure. Somebody call 911. So yeah, I thought that was like the dumbest scene.
Well, here's what I like about it. It's like there's those two types of horror. The one, very unique horror, being penetrated by someone. That's like, wow, I never thought about that, but yes, it's horrific. The other one falls in line with like that cringe horror, like where you're embarrassed about something, like in Smile and the birthday party and the cat. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening in front of people. This, you're having a female orgasm in front of your family, and it's like super cringy. Don't get me wrong, I agree with what you're saying. The girl is ridiculous in her lines, but the horror that you can find in that scene is what I dig about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's better than mid. But I think it also falls flat of what I want to see out of the Masters of Horror. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's a good short, but I just don't think it falls into this title with these group of men and women that, you know what I mean, create all this stuff. So I'm gonna give it a 3.
Fair enough. And then you just raised an interesting point I'll have to look into. Is there any women? Were there any women in the Masters of Horror? I have to think about that.
Maybe producers, you know.
2005. They got away with it. 3 years later, they would have never off the fucking ground. But all right, Eric, what did you think of Chocolate?
Dude, well, first of all, to ping off of the point that Fable was making here, you wanted like an extended version with an explanation. I think it would be hilarious if we got that, but they don't explain any of his powers or any of the things that are happening here. All it explains is the reason he got divorced, which is because his wife kept waking up to him having convulsions every single day. So when she saw it, that's why she's like, damn it, and just like pieces out, because she's like, I've been through this so many times, I don't gotta live through this again. The episode itself, great performances, really good direction, right? It felt, again, like clean. It felt clean and different in the ways that I don't feel like I've gotten that delivered from some of the previous episodes. But best performances, in my opinion, from top to bottom from the episodes that we've gotten here. So on a Masters of Horror scale rating, I would have to agree with Robbie on this one. I think it deserves a 4.
Hell yeah. I'm going to just stick with my guns. I don't know. I think I've rated everything a 4 so far. So I might regret this, but I'm giving this a 4.25 because I really enjoyed it. I was like, I'm really like more engaged with this one from start to finish than almost any of the other ones. It has what I've already said. Like what it's lacking is definitely there, and you feel it at the end of it. But for 50 minutes, I'm like more entertained by this one than I think almost any of them. Jennifer would be the other one that would compare with it so far on what we've rewatched. So a 4 from Robbie, a 4 from E. I'm sorry, Fable, I forget what you said. A 3 point something? A 3 from Mr. Fable and a 4.25 from Mr. Verno for Chocolate. So let us know. Let's move on. We got Homecoming, directed by Joe Dante. This one, that, like Fable, you said it right off the bat. It's so ham-fisted. It's so, we mentioned this in almost every episode so far, that you can feel that this happened after 9/11 in many of these episodes. It's like so real. Yeah, it's so prevalent in the shows. In this one, more than any of them, you've got someone doing a George W. Bush impersonation. The whole thing. You've got soldiers. And basically what the premise is these soldiers that have died in the Iraq War have come back. they've come back from the dead, and it's a zombie flick, but they're not violent towards anybody. That's the kind of unique twist on the zombie thing. They're trying to vote. They're trying to have their voice be heard. Is it a kind of a fucking lame premise? Like a little bit, but it's also kind of cool at the same time. I'm fairly engaged with this one. The acting, pretty much the opposite of what we said about the last one. This has some of the weaker acting, especially the reporter that wants to be a politician. She's pretty awful. It's kind of hot, so I'll let it slide. And but other than that, it's not like I fucking hate it. But out of these two, this one will be my least favorite out of these two for sure, even though I don't hate it. But Joe Dante, let's talk about him for a minute. Piranha, where he kicked I don't know if it was his first one, but it was the first one where I knew it. I loved Piranha when I was a kid. I haven't seen it in like probably 30 years, if not maybe 34. I might have been like a 6-year-old kid when I saw Piranha, but I loved it. The Howling, I think I'm going to do the Howling 2 weeks from now. I've seen it once, didn't appreciate it. I've heard nothing but people say it's the number 2 werewolf movie of all time. It's like the undisputed second best werewolf movie ever. So I definitely feel like it's one of those that I don't know, I didn't vibe with on a first watch, and that's why I want to rewatch it. He did Gremlins 1 and 2. Now we're fucking heating up. This is what makes this guy like one of the most impactful directors to me when I was a kid as far as horror. That's a lot of us, one of our first not real horror, whatever it is. It's borderline horror. Gremlins 1 and 2 so good. Inner Space, I can't go without mentioning. Martin Short. I loved Inner Space when I was a kid. That's the shit. He did Small Soldiers too, amongst a bunch of other things. The other thing I got to point out before I send it to you, Robbie, he tried to make the sequel, the follow-up to Jaws 2. And it was going to be like a hardcore spoof version called Jaws 3, People Zero. It's like, God damn it, why did we not get that? That would have been fucking awesome. But he's a cool guy. He's got a unique style. And like you said, Robbie, you feel his kind of humor and his kind of like goofiness. And I don't know, but at the same time, this is such a serious premise with these fallen soldiers coming back and they want to voice they're disgruntled about what happened to them and how they died. And then it even goes back and you've got World War II soldiers and every soldier that's died in the history coming out of the graves at the end. So it's an interesting one, but I'm curious, what do you think of it, Robbie? Or what do you think of Joe Dante, I should ask you?
Well, I love Joe Dante. Gremlins is one of my favorite films of all time. I love Gremlins 2. I love The Howling. I think it's the 3rd greatest werewolf movie of all time.
Ooh, what's 2? What's 1?
2 probably would be American Werewolf in London. Number 1 is the original Wolfman. Like,
okay, fair enough.
Like there would be no Howling without the original Wolfman, right? Like all the lore, they used the Wolfman in the movie, right? And I love that. But Joe Dante is a great filmmaker, and he talks about how to him he doesn't consider himself a horror director, right? Even though he's considered a master of horror because of things like Gremlins, The Howling, Piranha, The Burbs, which is another one I love, right?
Oh, I didn't mention The Burbs. That's one of my favorites
I love The Burbs, but he's also got this like Looney Tunes cartoon kind of energy to his work, right? You definitely see it in Gremlins. You for sure see it in Gremlins 2. You see it in things like The Burbs. You see it even in his. So yeah, he started working with Roger Corman. He would cut together trailers for Roger Corman's New World Pictures. And Roger Corman mentions, because once again, these things come with some really amazing special features, right? And Roger Corman says, one of the things I loved about him and what made him stand out was that whenever the trailer was getting boring, he would just take this stock footage of this helicopter blowing up and put it in. And he kept putting it into all these different trailers. Roger Corman thought that was hilarious, right?
That's funny.
So he was basically doing editing for New World Pictures, putting together trailers. And then eventually they got the gigs to do these movies. Him and his buddy, they had worked on something I think called Hollywood Boulevard, right? Where it was about this director making this movie and they were just using footage from other New World Pictures like Death Race 2000 and stuff like that, right? It was this silly, schlocky, campy type thing. And then he wound up getting the gig to do Piranha because he wanted to direct, right? Piranha led to the Jaws 3 People Zero thing, which I really wish we would have gotten that movie because that would have been great. The guy had gotten fired off The Howling, so he wound up with the Howling gig. Roger Corman's in there as like just a cameo appearance, for instance.
Mick Garris is in there in a cameo appearance too.
Yeah, and you know it starts his relationship with. I love how these people work with a lot of the same people. One of the things about Chocolate was in 2005 when I first watched this. I ain't seen this kid from E.T. in forever. So that was another element that made it be like, oh, not only is this dude getting fucked by this like sexy guy, right, in a weird way, but it's also the kid from fucking E.T. that I haven't seen in forever, right? But it's cool to see like Robert Picardo, right, is in so much Joe Dante work, and he's in here. When I first watched the original Masters of Horror, this was my biggest disappointment, because I was so excited to have Joe Dante back doing horror, because at this point, he'd been doing Small Soldiers, Looney Tunes back in action.
Yep.
Another great movie he did was Matinee, right? You can feel the love.
Matinee rocks.
Matinee is great, right?
I love that movie.
You can feel the love that Joe Dante has for being a kid. He tells the story about, he would go to the local theater, and they would have these Saturday afternoon matinees for kids where they would have a double feature in like 10 animated shorts. You can see that love of the cartoons and stuff. Very early on, Spielberg noticed him because he was a big fan of Piranha and Howling. And that's why he was getting involved with maybe doing the Jaws 3 or whatever. Like, Spielberg knew who he was, but that's why he came in to do Gremlins. Like, Spielberg wanted this guy to do Gremlins because he thought that he would be able to bridge that balance between like cute family film and true horror film, because Gremlins was written by Chris Columbus to be a straight up horror film. It wasn't meant to be kidified at all.
Oh, really?
And Spielberg came, oh yeah, dude. Like in the original script, the gremlin kills the mom, knocks her head down the stairs as Billy walks in, and Do You See What I See is playing on a loop. And the gremlin knocks the mom's head down the fucking stairs towards him and shit like that. And Spielberg was like, we could do this, but we could also do it this way. And then look what happened, right? It made Joe Dante's career. It made a whole franchise that's never really died. They just recently talked about doing a sequel to it.
It's official. It's happening.
Yeah. So I'm a huge Joe Dante fan. This one was disappointing to me, though, because I thought that the blend, if you look at Joe Dante's work, he does a great job of blending that like zany cartoon action. Even like look at his segment in Twilight Zone. He's got the big cartoon scary rabbit in it, Yeah.
Yeah.
So and Kevin McCarthy's in that one too. So that's so fun. I love when these directors work with the same actors, right? But anyway, I was disappointed in this one because I thought it was a bit on the nose. And if you look at his work, he doesn't really go after serious subject material like thematically, right? And in this one he does. He's trying to make a statement piece, right? The short story that this is based on is more of a story about gun control because it's all victims of gun violence that come out. But they knew that they could take that short story and make it fit with the current conflict that was going on, the Iraq War in 2005, the whole George W. Bush thing. It's definitely about that, right? Now, at the time, I didn't really like it because I thought, man, especially for something that's a zombie flick, it's kind of cheesy, it's silly. They're there to vote, the dumbass lines like, we're looking for a few good men, and shit like that, right? So this was the one to me that was like the worst of season 1. And it was a huge disappointment. And on the rewatch, it's definitely still not my favorite, but I am appreciating more of what Joe Dante was trying to do. First of all, in that era, I was an anti-Iraq War, anti-Bush kind of guy. Like, I was like, wait, this is all BS. And a lot of us kind of, at this point, we started realizing that maybe the American public were misled into giving our okay for the conflict that was going on over in the Middle East, right? And then now we know in hindsight what that eventually spiraled into, and just a big mess, right? But what's so cool to me in this one on the rewatch was this is the early days of like, we had already had that like Talking Heads news channel type stuff going on where you get somebody from the right, somebody from the left thrown together and blah, blah, blah. And the rise of Fox News, right? If you look at what it's saying as far as that goes, like the phony nature of these people that on CNN and Fox News just spitting out their bullet points, saying their things they're supposed to say, and how that looks backstage. Look at where we are today, bruh. We are so far into that zone of news coverage that this almost seems prophetic. Even though it was going on at the time, it has really spiraled out into something completely different. And it's meant to be silly. It's meant to be satirical. It's meant to be goofy and like a parody a little bit. I don't think it quite works for the tone of the seriousness of what it's trying to say.
Right.
Because trying to go pretty deep sometimes, especially with the reveal that, man, and I forgot about this bit where the main dude as a kid shoots his brother.
And then he's like, "You're dead. Get up."
Yeah,
dead. Get up. It's another ridiculous line. You're
so
dead,
it's
get
so
up.
weird for something to be so campy yet try to be so serious. I don't think it has a good tonal balance, but I do like and respect it a little bit more today than I did back then. But I do think it's rather silly and cheesy, and I love that it's so stupid. He just votes. He just motherfucker just drops ass dead. You know what I'm saying?
So corny. It's so corny. And
the way that the way that this political side is using these soldiers, like they at first they're like, oh, what's going on? This is terrible. They can't vote. Then all of a sudden, oh no, we'll let them vote. Then they're like, oh no, we're gonna lose. No, don't worry, we count the votes. And like it's as a statement on what it is. At the time, felt a little bit too on the nose. Sometimes you read a comic or watch a movie or a TV show, and you're like, this is a little bit too on the nose about what's going on currently. Right now, but now looking back on it, it's a pretty interesting piece through pop culture of what was going on back then as a historical kind of significance. But overall, it's still a little bit of a disappointment. I think his season 2 episode is a little bit better, but it's another one that's kind of a little bit on the nose. But I do like it overall, but it is a bit silly, I think.
Yeah, I agree with absolutely all of that. What do you think, Fable?
Yeah, man, I would say a lot of what Robbie said. When I first watched this, I hit Robbie up immediately, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" Like, because I was just I'm such a big Joe Dante fan too. I love his work. I love how he brings a comedic element to something so horrific, right? Gremlins has that perfect freaking balance of this shit is nuts, scary, crazy. But we can laugh at it too at the same time. You know,
it's got heart. It's got heart horror.
So I'm expecting that in this, and maybe that's my fault. You know what I mean? Maybe that's a little bit my fault. But when I first saw it, I thought it was just dumb. I thought it was silly. I thought it missed the mark. And then on this watch through, I still think a lot of the same things. I think the subject matter is so serious that if you're going to bring a comedic element to it, like Robbie said, the balance is off. I think you should make fun of both things, right? Instead of just going hard on one side of the fence, right? Like you want to entertain people, just everybody's got to be an idiot. Like the people you're rooting for, the people that whatever, so that everybody can have somebody. You know what I'm saying? And you can still get that message that he's trying to say across. But yeah, also watching it, I'm thinking, man, the more things change, the more things stay the same. Holy crap. I mean, they had everything going on today in this. It was insane. Like Robbie said, Fox News. That was fucking Fox News, what they were doing. That little segment. The evangelical right? You had the priest there, and when the dead first come up, he's like, oh, you know, our fallen soldiers have risen, and then when they vote the other way, he's like, these hell spawn from but you know, it's that kind of thing that I needed more of. I needed that kind of joking more in this thing. And I think Joe Dante's so good at it, but I think he missed the mark when it comes to that kind of thing. Like he could have done a better job with it and still have this message that he's trying to put across. I mean, you know, we all love our soldiers, right? We all respect. We don't want them to die for no reason. I mean, I don't care if you're on the left or the right. There are kids that are going to war. So there's a story there that you could relate to everybody. But, you know, when it comes to like my favorite political satires that have a sci-fi horror tinge to them, you know, things like They Live or Starship Troopers, Team America, things like this, you know what I mean? I think this falls really flat compared to stuff like that. So, yeah, I was disappointed. On the second watch, too, I did appreciate it more, like Robbie said, just because of the current times, but it's still not that great.
Yeah, I agree with all that, too. There was a lot of things through it that I'm like, yep. And you see this all the time. We're watching a lot of old movies, and it's like, yeah, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Is true. It's always true. There's so much that has not changed, and that people are still all those hot button issues have been hot button issues for a long fucking time, many of them at least. But speaking of hot button issues, what'd you think, Eric?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I agree with a lot of what you guys all said here. There was just like a level of effectiveness that was not getting touched on with this episode at all. Like Fable, you'd mentioned like maybe a satirical approach. Like, dude, this didn't even feel like satire to me. It just felt like a message being like hammered. Yeah, exactly. Like just pushed down your throat. Like, and it doesn't matter like what side of the aisle you're on and what like your viewpoints are. Good Lord, this was like. It feels like Joe Dante. This doesn't feel like Joe Dante, right? It feels like Joe Dante was maybe behind the camera going, counting all his Gremlins checks, going, yeah, no, looks great, guys. Keep it up. Good stuff. I don't have too much good to say about this, man. The performances were weak. Even the message, right? Like the message you guys were talking about with, the Fox News of it all, right? Like that's not new and it's not effective. And there were things even coming out before and at that time that did it better. The movie Network, right, spoke towards those kind of things. The West Wing was coming out during the time that this was coming out and spoke to those things way better than this did. So like, if that was the message, you didn't hit the mark. Like the honest to God truth is, for like the tone of this felt like a trauma movie minus all of the fun that you get from a trauma movie. So like, and if you do that, what do you get? Not much. Like, I mean, this missed on so many different levels for me. Like, it was a huge disappointment knowing that Joe Dante's name was, attached to it. Just didn't hit.
It felt like he wanted to make a point, a message and everything, and then he said, oh shit, this is Masters of Horror, let me throw zombies in this shit. Like,
Well, and here's the other crazy thing too, though. I was looking into the background on the episode and trying to get my ducks in a row for being able to speak eloquently about this. Dude, the New Yorker named this like one of the best political like movies of that time period, speaking towards the Iraq war. So I'm like, what are you watching? Are you serious right now? Like, are you did I get the wrong episode? Because this wasn't it. This
clearly the message aligned with their message. I would assume. I'm not familiar with the New Yorker. I've heard of it. Never fucking read it, but yeah, clearly it aligned with them. What up, Two Gun? You son of a bitch. Appreciate you being here.
One thing that Joe Dante says about this is, in the special features, is he mentions, he's like, I did want to make a statement about the current administration, about the current conflict. And I knew that if I was trying to do that in a movie produced by Hollywood, I would, which is weird to say because they probably would have allowed it to go through because of how liberal Hollywood is, right? But at that time, we're also, remember how like almost falsely patriotic everybody was.
That's what
I remember everybody having those yellow ribbons on their cars, support our troops, but at the same time, why don't we support getting them back, and stuff like that. So I understand the message he's trying to do. And he was like, this is my chance to tell a message first story like this without having to be subtle about it or anything like that. And just because of his very direct, cartoony, fun, humorous style, it just didn't quite land because of the seriousness of the weight of that message, which is like, why do we think that a human life is expendable? And there's that whole bit in the movie where the woman comes out. She's like, we found out that all this reason to go to war was bullshit. So tell me, why did my son die? And they just pull her right off, right? Then there was a woman at that time they were making this, that literally happened, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't remember her name, but it was a big deal at the time. And he was like, this is my chance to just fucking do it and just get my statement out there. But he did it without any subtlety. And I'm not saying Joe Dante's a subtle director. He's not. So maybe this story needed a little bit more nuance. I think a better director probably, not a better director, but another director.
Someone more fitting.
Done a better job. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, it's the wrong guy for this story to do, for sure.
Like a John
it feels
Landis,
forced.
Because John Landis does the same kind of thing. He's silly with his horror, but I think he's a little more tact. He has a little more tact with his stuff.
Yeah, there's a version of this episode that would have fit Joe Dante's style and approach way better. Like if you had like kind of the same message and the same thing, but maybe put it under the perspective of like of the president themselves, right? Maybe the overreach of power, the manipulation of people, like because you could play with humor under those subtexts, right? Like the interactions that you have to have. But he
tried to do it through the I don't know what that guy was. What was that guy anyway? Was he like a senator or
a politician of sorts?
He was the head of communications or something like that, right?
They tried to do it through his past, right? So when like he ended up finding out that he killed his brother, what was the line that he told his brother? Friend or foe, friend or foe.
Yeah.
And then he shoots him and he's like, get up or whatever. And then his mother's like, oh, we're hoping that you forgot. That's like the parallel to like what they were trying to do at that time politically. But it just, like you said, it just doesn't go. It just doesn't match. Doesn't, you know?
It's just a miss. I wonder if it's this type of thing. Like, I wonder what the time constraints for these shows are compared to a movie. You know, as far as like how long you get to work on it, and it needed more work in the script and just everything to get the tone right. As far as my thoughts, there's literally nothing that I could add that you guys have not already said. So I'll start with the grading. I'll throw it out of order, man. I will say the one thing, well, you guys have mentioned it. I do like like you were talking about, E, as far as like the Fox News of it all, or it's like looking at the marriage between media, politicians, and the military. You literally have them in bed together. You've got the media in bed with the government. And it's a way to show that behind the scenes. And if you're not watching West Wing, if you're only watching horror, maybe there wasn't a lot of horror, at least at the time, that was doing that particular thing. But as far as like, I think we've mostly all said negative things, but it's still like watchable. It's not the type of thing where you're sitting there clock watching big time, waiting for it to get over. Maybe a little bit, but it's not super boring. It's just like eye rolly a lot more than anything. That's the biggest issue with it. A lot of the times where I laughed, I don't think it was supposed to be a joke. Like when they vote and fall down, was that supposed to be funny? Because it definitely was, but I'm not 100% if it was. Or maybe it was supposed to be funny.
I feel like it was, right? Joe Dante says in his interview on this is like, he goes, I've learned that if you don't put comedy in your horror films or in any of your films, they're going to want to laugh, and they'll laugh at the wrong point if you don't give them the point to laugh, right? Like even that dumbass line where he goes, we're looking for a few good men. He says that's a setup for the next bit where the dude just reaches up and all of a sudden breaks his neck. Because then there's a really cheesy, stupid line where you're like, what? It almost pulls you out. And then there's that shock. It doesn't quite land as cleanly as it does. Like The Burbs is one of those movies that's perfect. Like, because kind of like Gremlins, especially if you're a kid, it's a little scary. It's a little funny. And it's also making a statement about suburban life and what that does. Right. So Joe Dante can do that. And maybe you're right. Time constraints may be something. I could imagine they didn't have much time to prep for these episodes at all.
He's got the most ambitious like theme, I feel like, that we've touched on so far. Yeah, the biggest thing is he bit off more than he can chew with this. Like, I think he had this big idea. Maybe he was very, clearly he had opinions, right? He was feeling very passionately about the subject at the time, which most of us fucking were. So I get that, but someone should have edited it, or you know what I mean? Someone above him should have figured out how to get this thing to work.
Yeah.
But I'll give it.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Please.
I was going to say the same scene that we all probably laughed at for the wrong reason. The guy voting and then falling over. When that scene kicks off too, talking about like the rush job that this feels like it is. Dude, did you guys see the makeup on that dude? Because when he first started walking up the stairs and goes in there, like you see very clearly the makeup line all along his face. And I was just like, oh, they're taking it in a different direction. Like people are going to be dressing up like zombies to manipulate the voting systems. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting. No, it was just bad makeup. It was just like really bad makeup.
And it was, I'm pretty sure it was this one. I saw Greg Nicotero in this one. I think he's an extra, the makeup effects guy. So that's kind of funny. I do think for the most part, the zombies, I didn't notice that, but for the most part, they look pretty good. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the specific guy that's walking up there, big cracks in his face. Like, that's what I was paying attention to.
Yeah, I think the big problem with that scene is how brightly lit it is.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
I did chuckle when she took off her I voted sticker and put it on him.
Oh my God. That was the funniest part. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's so serious what they're talking about, which I guess is kind of the way to do it, to laugh at these serious things. But I don't know. That was so funny to me and not necessarily the right way.
But you take out the whole diner scene. I mean, that was just a tone killer. Like, like, we want you to know, son, we appreciate what you've done for us. When
that
in the diner, so like,
yeah,
I killed it. But anyway,
when you said that rubbing his zombie hand, I'm like, you know what else I was thinking about is just like how much they must stink. Like there is one moment, like when they walk into and they're like they have them on the table, the doing experiments, and just the reaction to it. It's like, oh yeah, zombies would fucking reek. Like that house in Night of the Living Dead would stink to high heaven. I'll give it a 2.5. I could go lower, I could go higher, but there's enough there that I appreciate that I'll give this thing a 2.5. First, let me read Chill's comment. He's saying, Vern, I heard you laughed at that part. It means you have a pure soul or a dark soul. I can't remember it. Pretty fucking sure I've made it clear. It's dark, bro. It's very dark. Just, no, I was about to say like my coffee, but that's not true at all. I like a lot of cream, a little bit of stevia. But Robbie, where you at on it?
This one, I don't know. It's a tough one. I think I'm right there with you. I think it's a 2.5. It has potential. I hated it a lot when it first aired. Like I just thought like this is the one that's like the offbeat one, the one that doesn't stand out, the one that just kind of stands out for the wrong reason. It was disappointing because I'm such a Joe Dante fan. But on the rewatch, I do like how it. I love what you were saying about the marriage of the military, the media, and politics, right? And how that kind of it pulls the wool over people's faces or something, right? But 2.5, there are bits in there that I do appreciate, though. One of my favorites of which is there's a lot of George A. Romero references in this one, including his name on a tombstone. At one point when you see it, it says G.A. Romero. And then that one of the opening scenes when the main character is there at his father's grave or his brother's grave or something. I think it's his brother's grave at the very beginning. And she's like putting the flower on there. And he's like talking about like, it's like a direct scene, almost riff on the opening of Night of the Living Dead.
I noticed that. I was waiting for him to break the window. And instead he just reaches to, I thought the same thing.
Yeah. So I like that bit. It's a little tonal clash. Didn't quite land everything, but it's still an interesting piece, and I didn't mind rewatching it. And the biggest sin of a movie is not to be bad, but to be boring, and it's not super boring. So, but I'm right there with you. A 2.5, kind of to me the low point so far of what we've covered.
I think I would agree with you, man. As far as being the low point, I definitely agree on the score. Obviously, Mr. Fable, where you at?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go right with you guys. I'm gonna give it 2.5. It's bad. It's disappointing on a lot of levels. It's disappointing on a Joe Dante level. It's disappointing on a political satirical level. It's disappointing as a master of horror. Again, trying to bring something scary where I just think these zombies are silly. They look cool. Some of them look cool, but it's just not enough. I think it's not the worst thing in the world, but yeah, it's just right in the middle there, man. It's just enough for you to be like, okay, I saw that.
I'm looking right now because I'm getting curious. Yeah, he had a pretty good run leading up to this. The Burbs, Gremlins 2, Matinee, which I can't remember. You guys seem to be a fan of. Small Soldiers, Looney Tunes Back in Action. I don't remember how that was, but whatever. It's a Looney Tunes.
That's a great movie, dude.
Okay.
Daffy steals the Batmobile. I fucking love it, dude.
He did this after that, and it looks like he hasn't really done anything successful since. He did Trapped Ashes. He partially directed that, whatever the fuck that means. The Hole in 2009, never heard of it. 2014, Burying the X. 2018, partially directed Nightmare Cinema. So this is like the last. This might have killed his goddamn career as I'm looking into it a little bit further. It's the last relevant thing that he's done. Interesting. All right, E, my brother, finish it off for us. Where are you at on it? Out of
Yikes. I'm going to start with the positive thing that I can say about this, which is that it retroactively made me appreciate some of the early episodes that I was like, these are kind of like trashy. I don't like these. I had fun with those episodes, though. Like there's things that didn't make sense, and I was like, wow, is this cheesy and this is really bad acting? But this episode, I cannot see myself going back and rewatching. There was nothing that I can take from this and say like, ooh, that was really enjoyable. It's like, I agree with all you guys. And then I hear your score and I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like a 2.5 that you're describing to me. Like maybe it is, but like satire doesn't work. The story doesn't work. It's ham-fisted, heavy-handed, all the things that we've already said here. Like a 2, and I think I'm being generous by giving it a 2.
I felt like I was being. I think we all feel like we're being a little bit generous with a 2.5. I am grading on a curve, a 2005 Showtime TV show curve.
Yeah, and whenever I talk about a horror film from one of my favorite directors, there's always a 0.5, margin of error.
You want it to be there, like you want it so bad to be there, like he, at the end where he's like, play the fucking drum, the whatever, and it's like an American flag, and it's like I know what he's trying to do,
Right.
man. You're almost there, dude. Like, you know what I mean, but just not quite.
I feel you. So a 2 from you, a 2.5 from the rest of us. And I don't know. I would just to finish up. There's enough entertaining moments, and it's just to get through something that is pretty bad, but still be somewhat entertaining. I did like the relationship between the media personality and the government guy. That whole thing, and I like that she took his job at the end. Like, she's using him the whole time, and the second he's down, she sweeps in and takes it.
And let's give some props to Robert Picardo. I think Robert Picardo was excellent in this. I think he knew exactly what he was in. I think everybody else was,
who's that?
The bald guy that the zombie kills.
Okay, yeah. He is good, and I agree with you.
Sleaze bag, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Plays a good sleaze bag. All right, man. So let's go ahead and wrap this bad boy up. I should have asked you guys for your thumbnails. Let me see if I even have one. Do I have one? I do. I got one this Thursday, baby. Doing Night of the Living Dead, continuing the zombie thing, continuing a little tribute to George Romero with the Tom Savini directed 1990 remake of one of my favorite films ever. I fucking love Night of the Living Dead. I've never seen the remake. I've heard nothing but good things about it. So I hope it hasn't been built up to me too much that I can enjoy it. But they just added it on Shudder, so it is there. If y'all want to check it out, come join us Thursday at 12:30 Central Time, 1:30 Eastern Time, the new Thursday slot. But Robbie, I know what we're doing Monday night. Tell people what we're doing and what else you got going on of import.
I don't think I'm going to make Rockin' Robbie live tonight because I'm just damned exhausted after last night, man. Trying to sleep in like 38-degree weather in a tent with a $10 sleeping bag sucks, bro. And it wasn't even a He-Man sleeping bag or nothing, man. It was a lesson in learning last night, but it was a fun time. I can't wait to unpack it and get back to Rockin' Robbie live. It's going to be a busy few weeks with WrestleMania and the Huntsville Comic and Pop Culture Expo. But man, tomorrow night, very excited to talk about the Flintstones from the 90s, starring John Goodman and Rick Moranis and Kyle MacLachlan, Halle Berry. That movie was way more fun to revisit than I thought it would be. So yeah, the Flintstones tomorrow night on PCP Movie Night, 8 p.m. Central Time.
Is Rosie in that one, or is she in the sequel?
Yeah, Rosie's in that one.
All right, little Rosie OD too. Mr. Fable, what you got going on? I know you had a fantastic show. Well, I was about to say last night, but I guess that was 2 nights ago.
Friday night.
Blame Fable is Amazing Friends every Friday night. What you got going on though?
Yeah, no, Friday was great. I'm gonna be on the Flintstones with Robbie and the rest of the crew.
Sweet.
I can't wait to hang out with you guys again to talk about that one. I do agree. I think, like, compared to like Double Dragon, right? Like, as an adaptation, I think this one is way more fun. And it has a lot more to like take from, like, even if it's not serious, like the effects, the puppetry, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Yeah. It's a great one to revisit. And of course, Friday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern on the One Collection Down channel, the all new, all different Blame Fable show. We're gonna have Gary B, the casual comic guy, joining us that night. So yeah, come hang out. And let's talk about the shit that happens this week.
That's what I'm talking about. 9-Panel Grid, my brother, doing your weekly comic book reviews, amongst other things. Hanging out with our homie Stu over at your channel and Dr. Doom's fan club, talking comics. What do you got going on?
Look, I mean, you did the promo for me. Thank you so much, dude. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's every Sunday. Check out my thoughts on the previous week's comic books that came out. Every Wednesday, hanging out with Stu for Ink and Insights here, where we go over some of those books, some of the news that came out, all kinds of fun stuff that's coming out every single Wednesday between 9-Panel Grid and Dr. Doom's fan club. And if you haven't already, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Ink and Insights for our quarterly newsletter, plus a bunch of other fun stuff. Don't be scared by the word Patreon, though. It is absolutely free. So sign up for that. You're going to see some cool exclusive stuff coming out over there.
That's what I'm talking about. I was frightened. I was fucking horrified when he said Patreon. I was like,
nobody got the money. Nobody got the money for
that. Hell yeah, man. So, all right. I appreciate all you guys in the chat. You guys are the shit. And yeah, next time you'll see me tomorrow night talking the Flintstones. My wife's easy top 10 favorite movie of all time. This fucking movie is playing at my house all the time. So I'm stoked to talk about it tomorrow night, and I'll see you guys on Thursday for Night of the Living Dead.